Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Iron Angels 2, a Hong Kong action movie from 1988. I have been covering some girls with guns action movies lately, and this is another one. The first Iron Angels flick from 1987 is considered a classic within this subgenre, and rightfully so. I reviewed it a few years ago, and I gave it a strong recommendation. So if you have the means to watch it, definitely do so. Actually, I can include a link in the description box below because that one is available on YouTube, I believe. But is this sequel as impressive? Well, let's find out. So the following plot synopsis was taken from the website Asian Film Strike. The very first directorial effort of Stanley Tong, who went on to become one of Jackie Chan's directors of choice with films like Police Story 3 Super Cop and Rumble in the Bronx. Iron Angels 2 sees the return of the titular Angels, elite mercenaries played by Moon Lee, Elaine Liu, and Alex Fong, with the notable absence of David Chang, who played their boss in the first film, but with the notable addition of Karina Sa, a strikingly stunning panther of a woman with no backstory and little dialogue. This time, they're vacationing in Malaysia, where they meet Alex's lifelong friend Peter, who's become a wealthy businessman. But just as Elaine starts to fall for him, the Angels realize that he's actually a wannabe dictator with a small army of his own, and they have to stop him. So the film begins with Moon, which is always nice. She meets up with a shady guy, and she's being forced to put on a blindfold, and as we soon find out, she's delivering a suitcase full of money to a secret location in an effort to free a hostage. And things get out of hand, but the Iron Angels find a way to get the job done. Pretty good intro. Then the girl agents and their male partner travel to Malaysia for a vacation, and that's basically your plot. So, with that as like your main premise, the plot and the characters are a bit thin in this one. They're pretty bare bones. Now, I think the first Iron Angels movie had a greater sense of urgency, a tighter script to it, and a more compelling conflict. In this sequel, we get scenes with our main characters going out on the town, partying at some bars, and causing lots of unnecessary trouble. More on that later. There's a romance element as well, but none of this stuff in particular is that impressive. The script writing can get contrived at times, does water down the action components a bit. The best non-action moment, actually, in the entire movie is this brief yet informative tour of a palm forest factory. And I thought that was actually a pretty cool scene. I think they should have made that scene last longer and maybe incorporate some of the conflicts into that, because I thought that was a pretty interesting, look at that industry. Now, Moon Lee does have a supporting role here, but for some reason it does feel like she has less to do in this film. Maybe it's the plot and the fact that they're vacationing half the time, but she has a presence at the beginning of the movie, a little bit, as they do their shenanigans in the middle, and then thankfully she does have a highlight fight near the end. And that is kind of the saving grace for Iron Angels 2. There's a good amount of good quality action in this. Now, the opening hostage scene is pretty good. It's a mix of gunplay and fighting, fairly short but entertaining. The highlight of that scene is a very cool moment involving a grenade, and you'll know it when it happens. Then there's this car chase and a fight, and it seems totally unnecessary from a story standpoint. As I alluded to earlier, our protagonists like to cause trouble while they're on vacation for no good reason. So for example, they chase down this car that they see on the road and endanger the public. You know what I mean? And this is not justified when you're on vacation. And it turns out to be their friend in the car. But what makes it worse is that this car chase in rush hour traffic was all in just the spirit of having fun. We're here to have fun and endanger the lives of the public. This is not what you should be doing if you're the protagonist in a movie like this. But on the positive side, we do get an action scene to watch, and it's pretty good. There's a bar fight that starts because, yet again, our protagonists are just out to cause trouble. You know what I mean? I never want to go on vacation with these people because I'll probably end up in a ditch somewhere. That scene is played for laughs, but it's not as effective in that regard as it thinks it is. Then we get legit action. We're back to legit action. There's a forced car chase that's good. It involves a dude, a side character, who finds out about the nefarious activities within this palm tree forest, right? And it's exciting because you're not sure if this dude is going to make it. You're not sure how it's going to end because he's fleeing from the bad guys, and because he's not one of the main characters, he could be done for, or maybe he could survive. And that's actually one of my favorite action scenes in the movie. There's a pretty good 2-on-1 fight involving Elaine Liu, and then you get the big finale, which is like the extravaganza that you want to end a movie. It's about 20 minutes long. Reminded me of like a lower budget version of Rambo 2. Remember Rambo 2 in the forest and tropical environments? You know, it's a jungle infiltration scene. There's actually some bow and arrow kills early on, and some big explosions and heavy firepower that break out. Pretty solid body count to this scene, and Moon Lee's fights are quite good in it. Alex Fong gets a good slugfest to the death as well. So a satisfying way to end the flick. So I do recommend Iron Angels 2, but it's not as good as the original Iron Angels. Now, unfortunately, the availability of this movie has always been a confusing mess. I'll try to summarize it for you. It's been notoriously edited over its entire lifespan. Now, from what I've read, it's impossible to find the complete theatrical cut on physical media as of 2024. Please let me know if my information is incorrect. The version that's currently on YouTube is the popular international cut that is significantly shorter. It has a runtime of like 83 minutes. The original theatrical cut had a runtime of 90 minutes. Now, from what I've heard, that 7 minutes of lost footage or cut footage were to the story and characters, meaning that the action was basically preserved. So I looked up the UK release. They got a VHS Laserdisc release that approximates 90 minutes. So I'm like, ooh, maybe there's a bootleg floating around or whatever of that one. But what's cut are a handful of scenes of violence. And that version has practically disappeared through legitimate means. So, bottom line, someone needs to release Iron Angels 2 uncut on Blu-ray at some point, I'm hoping. Now, in the meantime, I say just watch the international cut on YouTube. I know it's a shorter cut, but that's one that's more easily accessible, and it's still entertaining. So, I'll include a link in the description box below. And as always, folks, I'll see you next time.